How's it going, guys? I know it's been a while. I think it's been about a year and a half since I've properly driven the R32. I had some, uh, had an issue a while back where I lost some traction where I thought I had more and ended up hitting a curb and damaged the front bumper, and the suspension was all tweaked, and I kind of thought it was worse, but I've finally got the motivation to start working on it and get the R32 drivable again. So I wanted to make a video talking about the EVAP delete. I know that's been a big question for a lot of people. I know some people like to do engine swaps, or you have old frail braking components that are causing vacuum leaks. So another issue you got a lot of times you'll have with the charcoal canister filter get plugged, and then you doesn't vent properly when you're trying to fill your gas tank. And you have to do all sorts of shenanigans just to try to get it to fill correctly. So deleting the EVAP solved a lot of those problems. Um, so I went ahead and deleted pretty much everything EVAP related, in addition to the SAIP combi valve stuff I did from an earlier video I did a few years ago. So I'll show you what I've done on the R. So starting under the engine bay, the first thing related is the N80 purge valve. So that's this valve normally sits here, and it connects through one of the vacuum ports right there. So the N80 purge valve is kind of the last point of the EVAP system. It allows the intake to suck fuel vapors from the charcoal canister. So I deleted that. Normally you'd have the wiring harness come around over here. So I think you need I read a 330 ohm resistor to help with keep check engine light off. A big caveat with all these changes really is from my research, you really need to have an engine tune that deletes or disables most of the emissions checks. Some call it an emissionless tune. I have reflect tuning on my ECU, and I haven't driven it around too much yet, just kind of in and out of the garage, but I don't have any check engine lights yet for EVAP stuff. So when you delete that, like I said, normally you have two extra vacuum lines here. One is the feed for the leak detection pump, and the other one is the output of the charcoal canister. The output for the charcoal canister is a white line with a black tip. Normally it's right here. So since that's not here anymore, I pulled it out from under the car. That would have gone through the purge valve here, and then over to one of the vacuum lines here, and then connect up to the back of the manifold, which I've plugged one of the ports there. And I've also deleted the vacuum line feeding the leak detection pump, and the flapper valve vacuum tees into that. So that's this line here has a check valve on it. So normally that comes over here and kind of tees in with it, and then it leads into the other now empty line. So I've actually just turned that and clamped it onto the now vacant available vacuum port. So I think it looks pretty factory doing that. So normally you have this big plastic shielding under here that kind of holds all these hoses in place. I'm deleting, like I said, I deleted the vacuum hot lines. They normally feed, underneath the car to where the fuel filter is over there. Let's see if I can show. So I have a little plastic guard on there, but you can see the fuel feed and then the fuel return, and right there. And then there's the fuel filter. Normally you can see the plug there. That is the line going, I think, if I recall, to the leak detection pump. But it goes over the gas tank. And I didn't want to drop the whole gas tank, so I plugged it here, and then I cut it and plugged it on the other end, just to keep dirt out in case I ever need to reconnect it for some reason. So So back under here, so normally you have your leak detection pump sitting right here. And then, so the leak detection pump I have right here. So normally you have this line. This is the feed from the engine bay for the leak detection pump. It just mechanically actuates it. It doesn't pull fuel vapors through this line. And that comes up and it's kind of built into it. And then the other line, oh, I remember now. The vacuum line that goes over the gas tank, it actually connects up to the output from the charcoal canister. And over here is the charcoal canister valve and filter. So normally when you're filling your tank up, this valve is supposed to open. Air is able to run through the charcoal canister from the gas tank out and be filtered, assuming it's actually all working correctly. And then this hose here is actually what the leak detection pump uses to pull vacuum on the whole system. This end is where the gas tank vents out into the charcoal canister. So normally this runs up kind of along here underneath this shield up to here where this little filter is now. Let me get my flashlight. And then this other line, this one here, is what feeds into this yellow port on the charcoal canister, like I said. So the reason why I haven't deleted this, it's not actually connected to anything on either end, is just because this whole filler neck is connected to the gas tank, so I'd have to drop the whole gas tank and just to get to the clips that's holding this thing that's behind there. So I just capped it at both ends, just keep it clean. If I ever have to drop the gas tank, then I'll just finish pulling it all out. The other is, at the top of this thing is actually pretty complicated. In the wiring diagram, not wiring, a parts diagram doesn't show everything. So there's this rubber hose. There's actually two of these rubber loops up there. It's actually different than this one. I know one of these is like an overflow, and then another one is like for vapor, and they both kind of connect. And I'm pretty sure that there's like a rollover valve already built in at the top, because when I was looking at the parts diagrams, unlike older Mark IVs, there's no separate rollover valve. So I'm pretty confident that I don't need to worry about that. But if I've learned that there is a rollover valve, they make a 5/8 rollover valve that I can easily run a rubber line and connect it to here. I think they're normally for boats, but there's a ton of on Amazon that could work if I need to add that. And then this plug, if I recall it, one of them connects to the reed sensor, and another one connects to like an actuator in the leak detection pump. I don't know which one was which, but one requires a 330 ohm resistor and the other requires a 660. But even if you do add resistors on them, because they expect different resistances and voltages over different times, because that's how the leak detection pump expects a resistance change over while it's pulling a vacuum. You could still probably get a check engine light anyways if you don't have a tune. So I don't know if resistors are actually necessary if you have the appropriate tune. And again, you can see I don't have resistors on there right now, and I haven't had any immediate check engine lights, but I also haven't driven that far. So with all that being said, there's also a plug at the other end that plugs into this valve on the charcoal canister, and I think that also potentially needs a 330 ohm resistor. Same situation again, probably just better off with a tune that deletes it all. So this deletes pretty much the entire EVAP system. So charcoal canister, the leak detection pump, all the vacuum lines, NAD purge valve, and the associated wiring. So I think that practically covers everything. Um, it definitely lets you clean up the engine bay a bit. I eventually plan to delete the coolant ball because I want to get the swirl pot overflow from S&P Automotive. That'll mount over here, so that lets me delete this whole bracket that has these three small ones and one large pipe, as well as like associated tubing and stuff. And over here, this is the tubing I was able to delete. So this is the one that pulls a regular vacuum for the leak detection pump, and this is the one that returns the fuel vapors to the N80 purge into the intake. I think that, like I said, I think that covers everything. I've done a bunch of other work, but I think I'll put those in other videos just describing what I've done. I have, I just put on BC coilovers and new adjustable control arms and ran into small problems with everything. But it's all been solvable, so I'll make another video talking about those. Anyways, so I hope this video is useful for anyone that is interested in doing those deletes for EVAP stuff. Check out my old video from a few years ago talking about the leaked secondary air injection pump, the pump that would normally be down here, and all the associated pipes and vacuum and wiring and stuff that goes with it. So take it easy.